Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Rachel and I'm a huge Eurovision fan as well as a musician, and in today's video it's time for me to give you my top 37 of this year's Eurovision Song Contest from a musical perspective. So this is my personal taste. I'll try and back up my list with some musical terms, some evidence, some analysis, that kind of thing, because I have a music background and I want to kind of input that into my top 37 as much as possible. So, bit of a disclaimer firstly, the songs that are going to be at the bottom of the list, there's no personal attack on the artists, on the countries in question. It's all to do with the song really, and my personal preference, whether I like or dislike the song for XYZ reasons. So please don't take it personally if one of your favourites is near the bottom of my list, or something you don't like is near the top of my list. It's all about preference, but I'm really interested to see what your top 37 is, so please let me know down below in the comments. Let's compare notes. I'm really excited. So let's get straight into this. So we're going to start with number 37. This song, when I first heard it, basically did nothing for me musically. It was kind of laughable in terms of the staging, and I truly hope that this country changes their staging as much as humanly possible for the actual semi-final. It's Romania. Theodore Andre with DGT, Dejete, Off and On. This one I have scored 2.5 out of 10, and I know it's quite a low score, but it is justified. When I first saw this video and heard the song, I just found so many issues with the way it was staged, with the naked ladies, the lyrics as well. I think the lyrics are crass. Some of the lyrics I find quite offensive, to be honest, as well. I think they're outdated. I think this man is 18 years old. He has a great voice. He is talented, but I just think this talent has been wasted on, well, what I believe is the worst song of the year. So I think firstly the production is quite weak in this song. You've got things like these trumpets, and these trumpets are also in the revamp. The trumpets are not real trumpets, and if they're going for this vibe in the song, this swung sexy vibe, you've got to have real brass in there, some real trumpets and horns to like fill out the sound. If you've got fake trumpets, it just kind of like cheapens up the sound quality of the song in general, and that was my main criticism, to be honest. The revamp, it just didn't really do it justice either. When I heard the revamp, yes, there is a slow portion at the beginning, at least allows Theodore to show off his voice, which is growly and it's nice, but then they bring in the beat halfway through and this electric guitar, which is so loud in the track, it was like a jump scare. I just thought this revamp has actually done no favours for the track. It's made it, to be honest, worse. So I'm really disappointed with this one. And Romania is a country that I support in Eurovision every year. You should have seen me last year when WRS qualified. I jumped and jumped for joy. I thought it was such an underrated track. Roxanne, both years they were involved, Roxanne was in my top 3. So this is really disappointing for me, but I'm going to move on to the next one now. In my 36th spot, I've got Poland, Blanka with Solo, 2.9 out of 10. So I just want to say firstly that when I heard the studio track of this one, it was actually not too bad as in the production. That's why it's just a little bit above Romania for me, because the production on it, it sounds like it has been mixed and mastered quite well, but the actual song content lets it down, and the live performance especially lets it down, because the vocal performance is very weak. There's a complete lack of control there, which is really unfortunate, because I think this type of song, even though I can't merit it enough in terms of the musical content, it still could have been elevated by a good vocal and a good dance choreography set as well. Blanka, unfortunately, is not a very good live performer, and I feel bad about saying that, but it's true, and I think a lot of you would agree with me. The chord progressions in the song are also quite dull. It's in the circle of fifths and it moves very predictably for me. So I just don't know if I can score it any higher than I have. It's melodically uninteresting and at parts as well. It feels like it's got a small range, and yeah, I can't put this one any higher. In 35th place is Azerbaijan, Turau Turanex with Tell Me More, and I've given this one a 5.1. So this one is definitely a lot higher than my last two places. I think those two are cut below the rest, and then it starts to improve. So this is a sweet and pleasant track, but it leaves no food for thought. It doesn't really do much musically. The chords are quite generic, apart from this one nice progression towards the end where they move from a G chord to, I think it's a C major 7 with a C sharp in the bass. It's quite a nice progression, and then an F sharp chord. So it is a little bit more interesting there, but the rest of the song I found predictable. It doesn't feel very authentic because it takes inspiration, I think, from other songs. Anything by Sugar Ray with the rap and the guitar portion, literally Sixpence None the Richer, Kiss Me, the strumming pattern of the chords and the guitar sounds just like that. But it is a nice change for Azerbaijan. I think this is something different. It doesn't sound like anything else they've sent before, and I hope they continue to get internal talent instead of going for like Millfest reject tracks. So this is nice, but I just think in comparison to everything else, I can't put it any higher. Next at 34th is Ireland, Wild Youth with We Are One. This feels so redacted compared to their other material. Wild Youth have some good songs. This is not good for me. I've given it 5.2 out of 10. I just think the chorus is dull, it lacks imagination, it lacks spirit, it lacks energy. It just feels like a rugby chant, to be honest. I think they could have done something more interesting in that chorus. There are some nice moments with the electric guitars that provide a bit of counter melody in there. But yeah, it just feels like this has been written for Eurovision and not written for the band, not written from the heart. And that's why I don't feel like it's very authentic. And I think Ireland are in trouble. They're not going to qualify again this year, in my opinion. I hope next year they come back with something a bit more interesting, something that just is unique. Next, in 33rd place is Greece, Victor Vernikos with What They Say, and I've given this 5.3. This guy has a very pleasant voice. It's very deep, it's very brooding, and I like the way he sings this song. It's kind of like he's very in touch with the lyrics, the emotions of it. There's some good acoustic arrangements, like the way he plays the bass at the beginning as if it was like an acoustic guitar, this little melody line in there. I think that's really nice. The piano sounds really good, but what I don't think works is when he brings in these electronic components to the song, so these kind of synths towards the end. They don't sound like they fit in too well to me. I think it's like a pizzicato string arrangement. It's quite fast paced, and his vocal line is already quite complex in terms of the rhythm, so it all feels like it kind of like doesn't gel very well, and it all was trying to fight for like who wants to be the loudest part of the song, which is a shame. So yeah, I don't think those electronic components quite belong to the nice soundscape that he established previously with the things like the bass guitar and the pianos and just the vocal, to be honest. So that's why I can't put it any higher, but I do admire his talent. I think he's so young and he's got potential, and I think he will do well in his career regardless of how he scores in Eurovision. In 32nd place is Denmark, Riley with Breaking My Heart with a score of 5.7. So the studio track I think is arguably better than the live performance. The studio track has been produced really well. I think it is one of the best produced tracks of the year in terms of the slickness of it and the sound design, but live, this is not a live song, unfortunately, because of that vocoder. So the vocoder is this instrument you sing into and you play chords on a keyboard, and it basically takes your vocal line and produces layers underneath of like a harmony, but it's moving exactly in time with whatever vocal you're singing. Except when he performs this live, his vocal is live, the vocoder is recorded, so he can't match every single millisecond of his vocal to that vocoder, and that's why it doesn't sound quite right live, in my opinion anyway. So yeah, I think the track begins also so abruptly. There's no intro. Someone pointed that out in the comments and I didn't notice it before, but there's no intro. It just goes straight into the song, and I think it would have been more interesting to build into it a little bit. Just have like a 4 bars of an intro, and then it kind of lets the listener prepare themselves for the song to start. I think that's why it's a bit rigid. It also feels like it lacks in a bit of dynamics and emotion as well. The song kind of like coasts on one level dynamically, maybe like a mezzo forte, and occasionally there's some kind of lighter moments, but it doesn't feel like there's enough light and shade in this song. It just feels like it coasts like this. So I would have liked it to be a little bit more varying in that way in emotion. Still, it's not too bad of an effort from Denmark, and I do listen to this one. It's not a skip. And in 31st place is Croatia, Let 3 with Mamust. So this one, I think it is experimental in some areas, but it feels incoherent altogether, unfortunately. I think it is playful, satirical in the lyrics, and that's why I have scored it 5.8, because I do think the lyrics are interesting, but the music itself, it feels like they've thrown so many ideas in there, so many sounds, so many changes of tempo. I just can't keep up with it, and I think they kind of like pushed it way too far over the line for experimental at Eurovision, because there's going to be a lot of people who hear this for the first time and think, what's going on? This is the kind of song you've got to listen to at least 10 times before you understand all the facets of it. So now in my 30th spot, we have Lithuania, Monica Linkite with Stay, and I've scored this one 6.2. So this one is growing on me from my original review. I think I just didn't quite get the repetitiveness of it. But yeah, my issue mainly is with the chuto tuto lyrics. I like the lyrics, and I really like the meaning behind it, and I think it's a really beautiful meaning. But what happens is she sings this line with the same melody repeated and repeated and repeated. If they changed the melody each time she sang it, developed it just a little bit, added a new note, reached higher, reached lower, I don't know, I think it might have been a little bit more melodically interesting. But I do like her voice actually. Her voice, I think, is one of the best vocalists of the year, honestly. Her B4 to D sharp 5 note range, I think, is actually better than Marine. That is a big statement to make, but her vocal control and her ability to sustain those notes without like wobbling or cracking is there. I think she sings it really strongly there. So that's one of my favourite moments when she says, just stay with me. That bit is really well performed. So yeah, that's just a hot take. But yeah, I think that is a great performance. So in my 29th spot, I've got Germany, Lord of the Lost with Blood and Glitter, and I've scored this 6.4. So I like the attitude of the vocal. I think the vocalist has a great stage presence and performative quality to every single word he sings. And the guitars in this song also sound great, but I just think the structure of it is too predictable and safe for the genre anyway. I think they could have done a little bit more experimentation in there, maybe added in a different middle eight, maybe not done the last chorus like I said in my review. They kind of stripped it all back for the last chorus, and then the drums came crashing in to introduce it again, and it's quite a predictable and generic thing to do. I think they could have done something else there and made it more interesting, but the way they land on that B flat chord in the song is really cool, and it kind of like makes the song so much more darker as well. It opens up the chords into a new realm, and that is a really genius move, but I can't put this any higher on the list, unfortunately, but I do like it. The next one in my list, 28th, is Moldova, Asha Parfeni with Soarele și Luna. So I've given this 6.4 as well, but it just has the edge on Germany's. So I think the structure of this one is a bit too predictable as well, although the soundscape of this is really nice with the flute, with the brooding vocals, and then the female vocals as well, but the flute melody could have been enhanced a bit more. He plays the flute for one bar, and then they loop it and loop it and loop it, and it kind of like goes on and on. We could have had a bit more flute melody. If you think back to Shum by Goe, that flute melody they had was like an 8-bar melody, and that's why it worked, because it was a coherent phrase of music that had been written to stretch out. What they've done in Moldova's song this year is just one tiny bar and then it repeats. That's why it loses interest for me and it loses steam. But what I think really works is those female backing vocals. The female backing vocals really support Pasha's vocals, and they blend so well together. I think it's got this darkness to it, which I really like. So this one is growing on me, but I can't put it any higher. Next on the list, 27th, is Albania. This is Albina and Familia Kelmendi with Duye. I've given this one 6.5, so the same score as in my review previously. This, I think, is a dark horse of the competition. There's not many ethnic ballads this year, maybe Georgia as well, but this one, I think there's something about this which I think people will vote for. There tends to be a group of people that come together every year and vote for the ethnic music and send it through to the final, and I think this will do well. Plus you've got the family element too. I think her having a family on stage is very unique, and I think people will warm to that too. I think they will like that concept, so we'll see how this does. But unfortunately the backing vocals, so I guess her family, they need to shape up a little bit, because occasionally in the live performances they've been a bit sharp, maybe due to nerves or stage fright. I'm not sure quite what's going on, but I think they just need to kind of shape it up a bit, get it all in line so that they're matching Albina, who is absolutely fabulous. Her vocals are stunning. And the revamp as well really enhanced this with the Turkish instruments. It added like so much more life to the track. In 26th place, I've got Switzerland, Remo Fora with Watergun, 6.7 out of 10. So this one I think is slightly kind of like lost momentum for me the more I listen to it. So I like the vocals, and I like the emotive performance. Like, he sings every word with so much passion, and you really feel like he feels what he's singing. He's so connected to this song. I also like that there's lots of timbres, instrumental portions in here. You've got brass, you've got drums, piano, strings. I think there's just so many nice like orchestral elements to this, which Switzerland tend to bring out every year, and that creates a nice timbre. It makes the song more decorated. I do like that element to it. But what I feel that doesn't work in this, I take issue with the outro. So the outro feels a bit stitched on for show. He wants to show off his vocals, sing what we've become with these high notes, but it doesn't feel like it matched what had happened previously in the song. So I feel like that didn't feel very organic, but the rest of it I liked. 25th, I've got San Marino, Pete Jacks with Like an Animal, and I've scored this one 6.8. So it's similar to Switzerland. The outro just doesn't feel very organic to me. I think what they did is they added on this ending where he could show off his high notes. In the national final, the high notes were sharp. He was pushing too hard on the vocals, so he was slightly over, but I think he could fix that in the live performance. But I do actually like this song. I think the guitars sound really nice. They have a good counter melody and a good function in the song. The melody of the chorus is really strong as well. I just think the lyrics aren't very good. The lyrics, like, after I listened to it a few times, I do get why people don't like it because they are a bit crass. But what I think about this song is that if you had a band like Foals singing this with a few tweaks of the lyrics, I think people would like it. I do. I think this is the kind of thing Foals would release, but more enhanced. So I do like it, but I can't put it any higher. Next on my list, I've got at 24th, Cyprus, Andrew Lambury with Break a Broken Heart, and I've given this one 6.9. So for this, the vocals are definitely the standout. He's got such a good range, a very pretty voice, and ability to kind of like sing this falsetto, but make it sound really powerful. Because there's a lot of guys that sing a falsetto, but it sounds very reedy and weak. He makes it very powerful. So I think he's got like a good chance of getting jury score if he makes it to the final. But the structure of the song I don't find very interesting. It feels predictable. It feels like I know what's coming next when I listen to it. And I think it lacks a little bit of that emotion because the structure is so rigid and predictable. It's lacking this sort of like human element to it in a way, which I think could be rectified if he performs it live and really like feels everything he's saying in the lyrics. And in my 23rd spot, I've got Israel, Noah Kirel with Unicorn, and I've given this one a 7. So the thing is with this one, and other people have made a comment about this too, it feels like so many songs stitched into one, a bit of a musical Frankenstein. So that could be a massive issue. However, what saves it is Noah herself, because I think what happens, Noah brings this coherence throughout all of these elements to the song with her vocal and with her attitude. I think she saves it from being a disaster in terms of all of these things stitched together not working. She is the glue, and that's why I think this song is pretty good. I think there's some really nice production elements to this as well. Verse 2 brings in this really nice bass synth, and it sounds so good. Like the production on it, everything, it's so crisp and nice, and her voice just blends so well into it. Also, those violin parts, right? When I was listening back to it, there's these violins that go da 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 da, that kind of rhythm. Those violins, I think, are pictorial because they remind me of this song by Nelly Furtado, which is called One Trick Pony, right? And you've got these violin rhythms which are kind of reminiscent of this country western pictorial of some kind of pony or horse. Noah's is called Unicorn, right? I think it's quite genius what they've done with those strings, because to me it is painting this picture of a unicorn. So there is a bit of magic in there. Whoever's written that part knows what they're doing. Yeah, that really surprised me. It kind of dawned on me when I heard it. I thought, whoa, actually, do you know what? That is a genius move to put in the track. It's sneaky, but I really like it. But what I don't like is the piano part. And the piano part to me is a bit rigid. I think they could have kept the same rhythms in the piano, but added a little bit more notes, expanded the range. They could kind of going in one direction. They're going down in the piano line. It could have gone up as well, or it could have reached higher. But otherwise, good song, and I think this is going to do really well live. I think it's been designed for the stage, it's been designed for that dance break to be really impactful. I'm interested to see how this is going to look live. I think it's going to be really exciting. In my 22nd spot, I've got Iceland, Dilja with Power, and I've given this one 7.2 out of 10. So this one, I believe she is one of the strongest vocalists this year. It's not being talked about very much either, but her vocal control in the live performance was really good. She hits those high notes so well. Her range is great. She has good passion in her voice as well. So I think she is a dark horse, and I think some of the chords as well, like I said in my review, are interesting. They carry on with this kind of generic progression, but then they expand the chords and add in these like minor seconds to really make the song feel a little bit more broad in its kind of emotional range. That's what I like about it, and I think there is potential in this. Plus, I love drum and bass, and I always have, but verse 2 in the song could have been a bit more impactful. It felt a bit copy and paste. It felt like verse 1 and verse 2 are very similar, and I think they could have done a little bit more in verse 2 just to make it seem a bit different, make the song feel like it's progressing forward just a little bit more. And in my 21st place is my own country, United Kingdom, Mae Muller with I Wrote a Song, and I've given this one 7.3. This one I think has kind of like declined in my list over the weeks the more I've listened to it, because I am picking out these mistakes in the production, what I believe is a mistake, and these kind of like issues I think with the vocal. So I think this is a good entry from the UK once again. Lots of attitude and sass in the lyrics, and I think she sells the song as well. She really like gets behind everything she's saying, and she performs it really nicely. The only bit I don't really get is her ad-libs at the end. So in the last chorus she kind of like improv'd on top of the original chorus, and I think her improv just doesn't sound like it fits in the song. It sounds a bit nasal at times as well, and I just think she could have done something a bit different in that portion of the song. But I still think it's good for the UK, and I'm hoping that we score at least on the left hand side this year. I think that will be so good. So we've come to my top 20. In 20th place is Malta, the busker with Dance Our Own Party, and I've given this 7.3. So this is just a really catchy song with a great message. The saxophone has been produced so well, it sounds very slick, and it's got so much character to it as well, and I think it is such a catchy part of the song. People will get up and dance to this. The small instrumental section, so the bit in between the last chorus and the middle 8, it has a bit of breathing space in the song. There's no vocal, but I think it could have been better if they added in something else like an electric guitar solo or a more saxophone solo, just to make the sound a little bit fuller there. But otherwise, I think this is a really good effort, and I think it's something different from Malta, and I'm hoping that they get some love in the televote in the semi-final. Hope they qualify, but we'll see what happens. In 19th place, I've got Georgia, Iru with Echo, and I've given this one 7.4 out of 10. So for me, the drum pattern is very fast paced and it has a lot of energy, and the soprano coloratura vocal on top is really nice. Like, she has such a beautiful voice, and she's able to like really sustain those high notes. Really nice vibrato in there. I think she's got such a sweet tone to her voice as well. It's just a little bit loud in terms of the production. I think there is some issues with the mixing and mastering, and other people have brought that to my attention in the comments as well, which I think is really important because I want to be able to hear what she's saying. There's enunciation issues, and because all of the kind of like backing tracks are so loud, it overpowers her vocal, so I'm not able to hear exactly what she's saying. And then I read the lyrics, and some of the lyrics don't really make much sense, and that's why I've had to score it down a little bit, because I think they could have tweaked at least a couple of those lyrics to get a little bit of like coherence, a bit of understandability in there. But yeah, it's a good effort from Georgia. I'm really impressed with some of the instrumental elements in there, like the violins and this really nice like, outro and the high notes, really nice. In 18th place, I've got Belgium, Good Stuff with Because of You, and I've also given this 7.4, but it had a little bit of an edge on Georgia for me. So this reminds me of something George Michael might have released in like his Fast Love era in 96. I think it's that kind of like get up on the dance floor and dance the night away sort of vibe, and I really like that. It's got a really infectious melody and beat, and great backing vocals to support Good Stuff as well. I think those backing vocals in the national final were absolutely stunning. They sounded absolutely note perfect, and it all blended so well together. But some moments do lack a little bit of energy. That synth ostinato, you know, the dun 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 dun. I don't really vibe with that one as much as I hoped, and I think the timbre of it, the sound of it, is a little bit irritating. They could have done maybe tweaked the actual sound of the synth, and maybe it would have sounded a bit better. I don't know, but I still think this is a good effort from Belgium, and it has such a classic sound to it. In 17th place, I've got Netherlands, Mia Nicolai and Dion Cooper with Burning Daylight, and I've given this one 7.5, so it matched my initial score in my video. So this is a very gentle song. It has some great lyrics, some very emotive lyrics in there, and the individual voices are nice, particularly Dion's, and I like the way he performs in the first verse, but in the pre-party I think there was some issues with those vocals. Yeah, however, the duet structure itself lacks harmonies, and I think the only time they bring in the harmonies is right at the end when they're singing the Goodbye Old Life part. The bit where they sing together in the second chorus really is quite one note, and I think if they just had 2 vocal lines really enhancing that melody, I think it would have sounded a lot better. But there is a little bit of auto-tune in there as well. I think that was really unfortunate. When Mia reached to the B flat 4 in her vocal, there was a tiny bit of auto-tune on there, and in the pre-party she dodged the note. So I really hope that they're able to pull this off live, because it's such a beautiful song. We'll see what happens. So next at number 16, I've got Estonia, Elika with Bridges, and I've given this 7.7 out of 10. So I think this is another strong vocalist who's bound to get some jury points in the final if she makes it to the final. She's a really good singer. I didn't find any fault in her vocal performance in the national final. There's a really great passion in the vocal as well, and I love the energy of the piano. I think it complements her voice just perfectly. I think some of the piano lines as well are really beautifully done, and they expand, they use the full range of the piano. Yeah, and there's some nice string and cello lines in there. I think they bring an additional layer of light to the song. It's fantastic, but I can't put it any higher because I do prefer some of the other ballads this year. Next on my list at 15 is Ukraine, Dvorchi with Heart of Steel, and I've given this 7.8. This one is growing on me the more I listen to it, and the revamp really brought this into a new level. I really love the orchestral string hits they added in the revamp, and the Ukrainian lyrics. I think it really elevates the song, and it makes it more punchy and gives it more attack. The vocoder in the pre-chorus as well works so well. When he says don't be scared, that part, so nice. The vocoder, it's so subtle, it's much more well produced than what Denmark did. I think it really shows them up a little bit there. It's a good song, but I think it still loses steam a little bit in the chorus. The get out of my way, yeah, 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 there's so much melisma in there, and I think it's kind of like hard to, as a casual listener, remember that melody, remember the lyrics, and have that like accessibility and the repeatability. It loses that there, but I still think it's a good place for him, the lead singer, to show off his vocals, show off his ad-lib ability. I think he's a really great singer, and in the R&B sector as well, it's nice. I think it works in that respect, and it was also a nice genre choice for Ukraine. They haven't done this sort of thing before, and there's not very many R&B style songs in the competition, so they will stand out. Next, I've got at 14, Norway, Alessandra, Queen of the Kings with 7.9 out of 10. So this one has such great drama and storytelling. There's so much light and shade in the production. You've got this middle 8 section as well, which feels really tribal. It's unique, and it's got these rhythmic variations in there, which just make it sound so cool and very Eurovision. I think this is the most Eurovision song of Eurovision, but it works so well. And there's almost like a simple tribal melody in the chorus. It's so simple, very, very effective, catchy, memorable. And then it's also like a sort of like traditional approach with that tribal, but with these electronic elements too, in that kind of like pulsating bass line. It's elevated, and it just blends so well together. I love it. Next at 13, I've got Portugal, Mimicat with I Coração. I hope I pronounced that one correctly, because I know in my review I said something like Coração, like I'm from Essex. So I gave that 8 out of 10. I think the sass in this one is so good. Mimicat really can sing and perform so well live. She brings all these dynamics, variations, cheekiness in the song. She makes it more interesting. She takes a song and makes it so much more interesting just with her interpretation and her performance. I still don't quite love the hip hop breakdown towards the end, because they had that melody before with this faster drum pattern, and I think it sounded a bit better there than it did in the hip hop part, but I know a lot of people do like that bit, so I don't judge it. I think that is a good thing to like, but I just can't really vibe with it as much as the rest of the song. But it is a very, very unique composition. I think someone pointed out in the comments to me that this is like a blend of 8 different genres, That's so cool. Also for me, counter melodies in this are probably the strongest out of the whole competition. There's so many little, tiny little guitar counter melodies, backing vocal counter melodies, piano. They're really using those to the benefit of the song. It enhances her as well. It kind of decorates her performance. It's really good. And in my 12th place spot, I've got Armenia, Brunette with Future Lover, and I've given this one 8.1. So this one has one of the most interesting journeys out of all the songs. It's mesmerizing to listen to, like the twists and the turns musically are just so strong. You've got this rap portion, you've got this piano portion at the beginning, and then you've got this more trap portion at the end, all underlined with these absolutely beautiful orchestral instruments. Wide range, you've got timpanis, you've got brass, strings, you've got clarinets in there. It's so cool. The only thing I had to say about this one, I think, is just the final chorus. The drum pattern is okay. It's the drum machine itself sounds a little bit tinny and plasticky and fake, and I wish they used a real drum kit. That would have elevated the song, I think. A real drum kit matches all the other instruments, which are real or sampled at least. That's the only qualm I had with this one, but I do think it is such a journey and it's a really, really moving piece of music. And just missing out on my top 10, in 11th place is Italy. Marco Mengoni with Due Vite, and I've given this one 8.4. So this has such great emotion, decorates the Italian language so well. The rhythms in here are so engaging and interesting. There's the build up towards the end, and it kind of like creates this great drama and tension, which is then released right in the final chorus, and that beautiful piano line, which I still play at home as well. I think it's such a genius piano line. It's so simple but so beautiful. But what I think knocked this out of my top 10, and I think it could return, was the live performance. When I saw the live performance, I wasn't as convinced, and I think the vocal was kind of shaky in places, but I just think maybe he had an off day there. His other live performances have been absolutely great, and of course 10 years ago now when he did L'Essenziale as well, he was so good. So I don't doubt this will return to my top 10, but right now it's in 11th. And now we finally come to my top 10. So in 10th place we have Serbia, Luke Black with Sama Mrs. Spava, and I've given this one 8.4 as well. So it's just on the border of the top 10. The production to me is my favourite part of this. The production is so strong, these growling synths, this dark energy, industrial sounds. It's very up my street, and I've mentioned before that it reminds me a bit of Trust, which is an artist I really like. I also love the cheekiness of the vocal, like the laughter, these kind of elements of spoken vocal which blend then really seamlessly into more of a like sung vocal. That's really nice, and it feels very organic and natural to Luke himself. I think he just really sells that kind of vocal performance to me, and he makes it sound so organic, and I love it. It's really palpable. Yeah, and I just love how that piano melody as well, very similarly, starts off as a piano melody and then it just like evolves into a really dark growly synth melody, and it kind of like helps with those lyrics, those dark lyrics. The song like goes on such a nice journey, and then by the end it's just this kind of explosion into an EDM growling, really, really nice kind of like slow paced just soundscape. It's really phenomenal. I love listening to this as well. I think I just like pick out these new elements each time I listen to it. It's just got so many like layers, like an onion. And in my 9th place I've got Sweden, Loreen with Tattoo, and I've given this one 8.5. So this one I think is growing on me the more I listen to it, just because of that emotional vocal and the stunning staging. I think Loreen's vocal is just so mesmerizing to listen to in everything she sings, and I just love her vocal fry, the crying sounds as well. She creates that heightened emotion and really brings out the lyrics. Unfortunately, I do think the lyrics aren't the strongest lyrics of the year, but I can overlook that because of the way she interprets it when she sings. So I do like this one. I still think though, the most issue I have with this is the synths. The synths in especially the pre-chorus completely follow the melody that she sings, and I think it does kind of overpower her vocal. I think they should have done something to enhance rather than overpower her, because I do want to hear her vocal. I want to hear her beautiful vocal, and I can't because the synth is very distracting, but other people really like that because they think it kind of enhances the melody. That's my personal opinion, but I do think this is a good song and it has absolutely stunning staging. I really enjoy listening to it. In my number 8 spot, this has really, really grown on me the more I listen to it. Austria, Taya and Selena with Who the Hell is Edgar, and I've given this one 8.5 as well. To me, the lyrics are absolutely genius, and I'm glad they drew attention to the issue of songwriters being underpaid. In fact, this is the reason I don't monetize my videos. I have never monetized my videos on my channel since I hit 1,000 subscribers back in 2021, because I believe that when I make content like this, when I'm reviewing people's songs, when I'm listening to their music, the songwriters deserve the money. But other people may disagree with me, but this is how I feel personally. And there's no judgment on people who monetize their videos. So back to the music itself, I think the production is absolutely fabulous. It's slick, there's these really nice guitars, the vocal harmonies, the function of the vocal is so unique as well because it blends this kind of like operatic tone with a more R&B tone, and then the backing vocals are kind of more percussive. Po, 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 you know, these really nice kind of like percussive noises, which is just like such a genius way to use backing vocals in general. It's not just saying lyrics for the sake of it. They're making their voices sound part of the instrumental, sound like they're part of the percussion. Really, really cool. And the middle eight, I think, is my favorite part. It's mesmerizing. The bass comes in. It's very, very like palpable, loud. You've got these chugging noises in there. It's just such a good song. I really hope they do well this year. In my 7th place, I've got Slovenia. This is Joker Out with Carpe Diem, and I've given this one 8.6. So I'm a big fan of the instrumentation in this one. I think the guitars have been written so well. You've got these nice backing vocals as well, which are very, very ethereal in the background, but they create almost like a punchy noise as well, a bit like what Austria did. Yeah, and I think the chorus is really great. There's the use of the Slovenian language throughout the whole song, which I think is really nice to hear. Native language entries, but also in the rock genre, which we don't get enough of. It's really, really great. There's also chromatic movement as well in the chord progressions in, I think, the pre-chorus, which is really catchy, and it kind of like progresses the song nicely. And the outro is really cleverly done. It's like taking the chorus but then making it a bit more subdued, spinning the ideas out, slowing it down, and then coming to a natural conclusion. And they also did a really genius thing in the second verse where they brought the atmosphere down and made it more slow, and then they brought the disco beat back in. I think that's a really cool part of the song, of the second verse. I think that's my favourite part so far. And in 6th place, I've got France, Lazara with Évidemment, and I've given this one 8.6 as well. So for me, this one is stunning in terms of the production. Amazing orchestral sounds in here. They have these brass elements which I think are just stunning, especially when you think about the brass that's used in Romania's entry. It's night and day, honestly. There's the strings, the gentle piano in that little pre-chorus before the second chorus. Oh, it's just so beautifully in there. It's like this muted piano tone. It's very subtle, but it just makes the song even more kind of like disco-y. I think it really like punctuates the rhythms so well. It's so good. Lazara, she commands this song as well. You're fixated on her. She absolutely knows how to perform live as well. I saw her live performance at the pre-party. She was just on it. She commanded that stage, and I think she's going to do really well this year. The only qualm I had with this one, there was these funk guitars that came in the second chorus. They could have been a bit louder, and the bass was too loud. If they just switched those around, I think this would have really, really been good. And now we've come to my top 5. So in 5th place, I have Australia, Voyager with Promise, and I've given this one a 9.1. If I could spin in my chair right now, I could, but it's a fixed chair. So I'm not going to try because I think I might look like a Wally. Anyway, this song just builds so well. The musical journey, the instrumental journey is incredible to listen to. It's like this explosion at the end with the guitar solo, and that guitar solo really develops the chorus melody. It literally starts playing the chorus melody and then he goes higher and kind of improvises around that, and then the keytar is absolutely epic. I love that keytar. And also I think the synths at the beginning are really interesting. They've got like a nice sound design to them, and they create a bit of tension, and that tension is constantly released through the G major chord, which they always go back to. And I think it's such a genius chord because they tease us and make us think that they're going to use a G minor chord, but then they use G major, and it just brings the song to a new level for me. It's really good. These next 4 songs, to me, are just absolutely stunning, and I listen to these the most out of everything. I can constantly stream these ones, but I had to rank them. So in 4th is Latvia. Southern Lights with Aya. This, oh, when I first heard it, like all my senses lit up because of the 6/4 chord progression. I've given this 9.6. 9.6, it's so close to being perfect, but I only have one nitpick about it, which was basically just the memorability. I think there was a tiny lack of memorability in the first verse, but the more I'm hearing it, the more it's growing on me, and I think I could probably bump it up to a 10 if I just get sold on that first verse. So like I said, they use that 5/4 chord progression in the verses, which then moves to 6/4 or 3/4, depending on how you look at it, in the chorus, and that is so cool to me. I just want to hear these more complex time signatures at Eurovision. It's genius. The electric guitar functions so nicely as well because they use these ethereal sounds which complement the lead singer so well. But then it bursts into this solo, and the solo is these like crunchy sounds, these haunting sounds. It's really, really cool. The more I listen to it, I really appreciate how that guitar has been used in there. And then the lullaby melody at the end, it rounds the song off so well. It's very haunting. It's a natural conclusion, I think. And it's so nice to kind of like bring the song down, bring the mood really, really far down, end it there and leave the listener wanting more. I think that's a stunning way to end the song. Right, the next three on my list, we've come to my gold, silver and bronze medals of the season. So all three of these entries have a 10 from me. So it was really, really hard to switch them around. I don't know, but this is the order I've got today. So in third place, it's the song that made me cry. It is Czechia. Vesna with My Sister's Crown. So if you saw my review to this one, the chorus just made me burst into tears. I think the chorus has something about it which touches the soul, and that is why I can't fault this one. There's something about that melody and something about the harmonies and the Ukrainian church style singing underneath in that chorus which just do something to me, and they do something to quite a few people who've mentioned it in the comments, and I've seen other people's reactions. There's just something about it. There's some kind of like instinct you get when you hear it. It's absolutely stunning. From start to finish, it commands the listener. The lyrics are so moving, they bring tears. There's harmonies in the chorus which are angelic. It's a blend of traditional with more experimental in there, with the kind of like traditional singing style and these synths which sound a bit more kind of hypnotic and kind of strange, but really well blended together. I hope they pull it off live though, because I have seen their performances at the pre-parties and I'm not convinced so far with their live performance. It just has that lack of spark. They need to really bring it together. But in terms of a studio track, 10. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. I can't fault it. I think it's absolutely stunning. So we've come down to the final two songs. You've guessed that the last two on my list are Finland and Spain. To me, these two bring me so much joy, just as much as Czechia. And it was really hard to decide between the two, but you will understand my decision at the end. So, in second place, with a score of 10, is Spain. Blanca Paloma with Aya. So if you saw my initial reaction to this also made me cry, but more in awe of the sound and the quality and the talent before my eyes. Like when I saw Blanca singing this, I was just stunned at like, how can somebody be so talented with singing, and how can these backing vocalists be so talented with supporting and singing in tune and nailing those harmonies. I think this is just so cool. It's the flamenco style, it's authentic, it's experimental. You've got these quarter tones in there, which is just, they do something to me when I hear those quarter tones. They're so distinctive, there's this dissonance in there. You've got these key chords of the song, which are kind of like simple pedal chords, but then the vocal is so experimental with these dissonant notes and these kind of notes outside of the scale, these quarter tones. It's so cool. The harmonies are unpredictable, but they're angelic at the same time, and I think that's why it really moves me. The drama created through the dynamics is very palpable to the listener. Blanca's vocals, like I said, are faultless. The vibrato is so well controlled, but it also has this kind of naturalness and retains this improv-like feel, which I think is why this song just feels so natural. I think it doesn't feel restrained. She is literally singing perfectly, but also kind of like making it up as she goes along. It gives it that feel. I think that is absolutely stunning. So you've guessed what my number one is this year. It is Finland, Garia with Cha Cha Cha. So I think the reason why I put this one as my winner is I am in the mood for joy this year, and this song brings me joy. Pure and simple, it brings me joy. The other two, my second and third place, bring me kind of like melancholy and sadness and also joy. But I think for my mental health journey this year, I am in the mood for a song that makes me want to dance and get up and have fun and celebrate life. And this song makes me want to do that. But also the musical elements of it as well are really, really strong. And I think this is a potential winner. I'll make another video about this as well. This is my favourite. It's my most streamed song of the year. Every time I listen to it, it never gets old. It grows on me more and more I listen to it. I'm trying to learn the lyrics so I know a bit of Finnish as well. The blend of genres on this works so well. There's these dark tones which are highly percussive at the beginning, which is kind of like punctuated by these really nice synths, these chugging synths, which I think the design on is really, really nice too. And then this bursts into colour at the end with these bright synths, more melodic approach and more of a happy hardcore vibe. It's just like this movement from darkness to light, which I like. It's such a simple concept, but it works so well, and that's why I really love this song. The cha-cha-cha element as well, it's repeated so many times, but each time it's repeated, it develops. It starts off right at the beginning with the synth just going da 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 da, and then it turns into shouting cha 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 cha. You know, that's really cool. And then at the end, it's singing. You know, there is a journey there, and it is been really well thought through, and that's why I think this song's so cool. The lyrics are so relatable and fun. That it's like partying. It's got this introvert perspective of going out and then like having a couple of drinks and then just like being Michael Flatley on the dance floor, you know. That's literally me, and I relate to this so well. I love it. And obviously Karja is such a likable person, performer. He's got a great personality. His heart's in the competition, so I am definitely rooting for this guy. And yeah, I think this is a winner I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about this one, and I'm really interested to see how it does in the competition. But yeah, it's all about that joy and that happiness and retaining that happy moment when listening to the song. So let me know down below your top 37. Yeah, thanks for sticking through the video, and yeah, there'll be much more content to come as well, but that is my top 37. You'll see how that has changed after the live show, after the final, when I take into account the live performances as well. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye.